I'm just like you. We all feel like we can't focus, don't have energy, and can't see ahead. We zone out, forget, and lose track mid-conversation. We get bored quickly and can't even finish a video. So if you manage to watch this video until the end, believe me, you are a hero. The question is, when is this distraction normal, caused by many distractions around us or the stress we are all living with? And when it's a neurological or psychological disorder that requires diagnosis and treatment? When should I suspect that I or my child might have hyperactivity and attention deficit disorder, or ADHD? And if we do, what is the treatment? Take a look at this image. It's a type of scan that shows the activity in specific areas of the brain. If I told you that the red color represents higher activity, and these are two brains, one belonging to a person with ADHD and the other to someone without it, can you guess which brain is affected and which one is normal? I know that the name hyperactivity and attention deficit make it sound like the brain of the person with ADHD is more active than normal, or hyper. But surprisingly, in ADHD, there are areas of the brain with less activity and development than expected. One of these areas is the reward system, which constantly cheers you on, saying well done to everything you do. It gives you a feeling of satisfaction and pleasure about what you are doing. In the system, there are chemicals that work to stimulate it, the most well-known being dopamine and norepinephrine. Studies show that in people with ADHD, the level of these chemicals are lower than normal, making the entire reward system less active. So the feelings of satisfaction and pleasure are irregular. The person either doesn't feel them easily, or if they do, they are short-lived. They start a task, feel a bit satisfaction, but then get bored quickly and can't continue. So they look for something new to start, and this leads to an endless cycle. But the question is ADHD really a new thing? As our grandparents used to say, we have seen naughty kids before, but no one considered them sick. Why are doctors making a big deal out of it today? To understand whether this disorder is new or old, we need to know its nature and understand the problem itself. Right now, you are listening to me. Thoughts, emotions, and memories are running through your mind. At the same time, your brain is processing my voice, the image, the light, the street sounds outside, maybe a match playing on your TV, or someone in your family talking on the phone. You might even have something in your hand that you are eating or drinking. Your brain is handling 1,000 tasks at once, prioritizing to focus on the most important. It can place some of these tasks in the background, requiring no attention, while others in the middle, ready to come back to later. It selects one or two tasks to take full focus in the moment. These are the brain's executive functions. Like the CEO of a company, he doesn't physically do anything himself, but organizes who does what, where they should be, when, and how. This specific function is somewhat disrupted in people with ADHD. Your brain can also filter and isolate, like noise cancellation. It can lower the noise, whether it's external from your environment or internal from your own thoughts, and heighten the focus on what you need to work on now. You know when a word, action, or thought suddenly pops into your head and you are about to act on it, but at the last second you stop and decide it's inappropriate, unnecessary, or even dangerous, so you ignore it? Unfortunately, for people with ADHD, coordination, organization, and control over impulsive behaviors are impaired. This is why ADHD is described as a disorder of executive brain functions. Even if you don't have any psychological disorders, you might find yourself struggling with these executive functions during times of stress or pressure. Remember the night before an exam or the last day before a deadline, when you couldn't figure out how to prioritize, didn't know where to start or what to leave for later, sitting amidst of all your books, completely clueless about what to do? That's a temporary dysfunction of brain functions caused by stress. But for someone with ADHD, that's how their brain handles the world all the time. Now, let's take a look at the symptoms that appear in children. A child with ADHD might develop speech and language skills a bit late, but once they gather enough vocabulary, even if slightly delayed, they suddenly start talking more than usual, and no one can stop them. Their motor skills might also develop a little late, and they may struggle to acquire social skills, finding it difficult to make friends or to play with them, to the extent that you might notice they seem younger than their actual age. A child with ADHD has difficulty regulating their emotions. While all kids are dramatic to some extent, this child may experience intense mood swings and always seem on edge. They are restless and unable to stay seated or stand still in any setting. They are always impulsive, touching everything around them, moving objects from their place, potentially breaking them, and it's nearly impossible for them to sit for 2 consecutive hours to complete a lesson. Do you remember when we said that the brain doesn't always filter out distractions, whether it's from the environment around them or their own thoughts? A mother might find herself saying, I talk to him, I explain to him, I repeat the same word 100 times, and it's as if he doesn't hear me. The truth is, he does hear you, but he's also hearing the sound of the television in the living room, the cars outside on the street, his siblings fighting all at the same time and equally loud, as if he genuinely didn't hear you. Then he grows old and enters adolescence, and the problems start. This stage is already challenging due to the physical and psychological changes, peer pressure, conflicts with the friends, and attempts to fit in. The academic demands also increase. Now imagine having the challenges of adolescence on top of ADHD symptoms. We see the teenager acting on impulsive and harmful behaviors, drinking alcohol, using illegal substances, driving recklessly. Statistics even show that individuals with ADHD are 4 times more likely to be involved in traffic accidents than those without ADHD. They are more prone to bone fractures. Additionally, they can't sit still. They fidget, make repetitive movements with their hands or legs, or start tapping. And if you remember how they used to talk a lot as kids, now as teens, they won't stop talking. They talk and talk and talk, even if no one's listening. If they are in conversation, they interrupt others, unable to wait their turn, or answer questions long before they are even asked. They might say inappropriate things, make unsuitable comments, and regret them later, as if their words are way faster than their thoughts. Another symptom is difficulty sleeping at night, even if they feel tired throughout the day. And now adolescence passes and they move into young adulthood. Over time, symptoms might improve and lessen as the person learns how to manage and cope with them. But the symptoms don't completely disappear. Around 3 to 4 out of 10 individuals who once had ADHD as children will carry it into adulthood. And as an adult, you will find they struggle significantly with time management. They are always late for classes, for work, for outings and responsibilities. If they have an exam or a task with a deadline, they'll procrastinate, delay, and delay again until it's too late. The exam's tomorrow, the task is unfinished, and they genuinely can't keep up. They are also highly impulsive in their decisions, whether simple or major ones. For example, they might suddenly decide to spend a large amount of money without thinking, or buy something they don't need, or get married quickly and divorce just as quickly. They're always in a rush, hate waiting, even when there's nothing urgent ahead of them. I'm sure that as you are hearing these symptoms right now, you are thinking, yeah, I have a lot of these symptoms. I feel like this sometimes. Maybe I have ADHD or need treatment. Or if you are a parent, you might be asking, yeah, my child moves around a lot and has these symptoms. When should I consider this not normal and take them to a specialist? I'll answer you with a question. Are things actually getting done, or is everything just a chaotic mess in your mind without any real progress? If you are completing tasks, even if things feel messy, but you are moving forward step by step, this is less likely to indicate ADHD. It doesn't rule it out completely, but it doesn't strongly suggest it either. If you find that you can't plan, execute, or progress step by step, even if you have a million creative and genius ideas in your head, but nothing materializes in real life, in that case, you might want to consider seeking help from a specialist. As for children, if the restlessness and playfulness subside after some time, and if, for instance, we ask them at school to sit on a chair like their classmates, uh, and listen to their teachers and they comply, meaning they respond well, then we say that their academic and social functioning is not impaired, and this does not suggest the disorder. So, how is the diagnosis made? Diagnosis is definitely done by a specialist in psychological or neurological disorders. The specialist will inquire about the symptoms I mentioned during this episode and ensure that these symptoms appeared before the age of 12. The symptoms must negatively impact the quality of your life and persist for at least 6 months. Pay attention to this part. The symptoms must be present in multiple settings. For example, if the symptoms appear only at home, but the child behaves normally at school or at the gym or at a relatives or friends' houses and in public, we can't just look at the child. We must examine the home environment. Maybe someone is bothering them or there's something causing them to act this way. Similarly, for adults, if these symptoms only appear at work but not at home or in a cafe, it might be the work environment itself causing the issue. Focus with me. You might be diagnosed as a child, meaning your parents will describe the symptoms, or you might be diagnosed as an adult, either because the symptoms were unclear during childhood, or your parents dismissed them as mere mischief. Whatever the reason, as an adult, you'll be the one describing the symptoms to the doctor. And here, we must pay attention to a critical phenomenon. More than two-thirds of people with ADHD also have other psychological disorders, such as anxiety, depression, eating disorders, sleeping disorders, learning difficulties, ASD, Tourette syndrome, personality disorders like borderline or avoidant personality disorders, uh, and even addiction. It's crucial to treat both ADHD and any co-occurring disorders simultaneously. For instance, we need to address addiction alongside ADHD to reduce impulsive behavior. Trying to treat addiction alone is unlikely to be effective. Now, the pressing question: what is the cause? Who's responsible for this disorder? Did we as parents mishandle the child, or did the environment around us alter their behavior? Is it the food, the drinks, or the polluted air? What is the reason? Like most psychological disorders, there isn't a single definitive cause for ADHD. However, evidence suggests that genetic factors play a significant role. The genes inherited from your parents may make you more susceptible to the disorder. After genetics comes the environment, the circumstances we face in life. From our very first moments, for instance, children born before 37 weeks or with lower than normal birth weight are more likely to develop the disorder. Research confirms that pregnant women exposed to lead are more likely to experience miscarriages, and children exposed to lead have an increased likelihood of developing ADHD as well as other disorders. The World Health Organization recommends intervention, including medications, to remove lead from the body. If a child's lead levels exceed a certain threshold, only a doctor can determine what's necessary. The most debated question now: does parenting style and parental behavior cause ADHD? The direct answer: no. However, parenting style can exacerbate or mitigate the severity of symptoms. It can either help improve the condition or worsen it. That's why treatment plans must include educating and training parents and those around the child, not just treating the affected individual alone. Finally, what's the future of someone with ADHD? Unfortunately, without treatment, this disorder can have significant consequences on a person's life. Decline in education, difficulties at work because they can't stay focused easily, don't follow rules, social relationship problems, accidents and injuries of varying degrees due to the impulsive behaviors, bullying and stigmatization directed at the person, pressure from the people around them, and it could lead to family conflicts between the father and the mother, and we end up blaming each other. Therefore, the early the diagnosis and treatment, the better we can avoid these complications and consequences. So, what are the available treatments? There's a lot of controversy around ADHD treatments, and that's expected due to the nature of the disorder itself and the many misconceptions about it. It may be also due to societal pressures, parents' accusations, and blaming the parents, saying raise your kids, accusing the person with ADHD himself, saying you can't focus, you don't want to focus, you don't respect the rules, you are careless, and other factors that complicate the treatment process. The first step in treatment must be to fully understand your disorder, believe it, and accept that it is a neurological and psychological disorder caused by changes in the structure and function of several brain areas. This disorder is not about upbringing or lack of discipline, not the child's behavior, and not a lifestyle you chose. You need to believe this. The second step is medication. The first type of medication used to treat ADHD are stimulants for the brain. Yes, stimulants. Here, let me remind you of the scans we saw at the beginning of this episode. People with ADHD do not have excessive brain activity or electrical currents like we often hear. No, we need to correct this misconception. On the contrary, there are specific areas of the brain that have less than normal or abnormal activity, which is why brain stimulants are effective for about three-quarters of those affected. There are other medications, not just stimulants, that are also proven to be effective. The doctor who specializes in this area can decide what type of medication is suitable for your case. Let me give you an example on treatments that doctors might offer you, such as cognitive behavioral therapy, where you talk to a specialist doctor or a therapist to train you on better thinking methods and teach you social skills that might be lacking. We could also try joining supported groups to meet others who have the same condition and benefit from their experiences. There are also things we can do ourselves, most importantly, exercising, especially aerobics like running, cycling, walking, or swimming, because exercise stimulates the release of dopamine, which we discussed could be imbalanced in some patients. For some patients, it also improves the executive brain functions, which we mentioned could be impaired. So, in general, exercise can help reduce the severity of symptoms. ADHD does not come up without us thinking of Michael Phelps, the American swimmer with 28 Olympic medals, 23 of them gold, was diagnosed with ADHD while still in elementary school. His mother sent him to swimming training, where he excelled remarkably, and he became the youngest American Olympian at just 15 years old, with subsequent achievements. We also need to follow a healthy diet. So far, there's no specific diet or foods you must eat to treat ADHD. There's also no sufficient evidence to suggest that specific supplements or herbs help with the treatment. But there's no disagreement that healthy food is important for any physical or psychological disorder. And finally, sleep. We should try to maintain a healthy sleep routine as much as possible. We all know that sleep disorders generally negatively affect our mental state, mood, thinking, and behavior. So if you are affected and starting treatment, or if you are helping someone who is affected and supporting them through their treatment journey, I hope this episode helped you and gave you a better understanding of your situation. Knowledge, in general, reduces our fear and makes us better able to face the challenges of the disorder. Try to share this episode with those around you and spread the knowledge. And if you have any experiences or advice you'd like to share or questions, please leave them in the comments. See you soon.